The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
Hey, welcome back, Googlization Nation. We are so excited you decided to join us again. We know you got a lot of choices, and we really appreciate you take the time to listen to us each week on Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. Or many of you may be doing it at the gym, on your commute, on the way home, because we're on pretty much every podcast platform you can think of. So what we're talking about today is, have you ever felt like you had a black cloud hanging over you because all the decisions you make don't seem to be working out, or your best intentions don't seem to get the response you expected? Or how about, and I know this is a big one in business, Keith, I know you can relate to this because we talk about it all the time. You really want to help somebody. You want to coach them or mentor them, give them some advice, an employee, a big problem in the workplace today. And yet, no matter what you do, it doesn't seem to work. Because that's what we're going to be talking about, how to be more effective in our communication and living up to our human potential, but also just generally kind of living our life on purpose. So,
it's so interesting, and it's so serendipitous that we have the guest we have today with the upcoming Lovers holiday coming up on Friday, right? There's this, we spend a lot of time, Ira, don't we, talking about the age of technology and the impact of AI, and we have our guests from time to time that come on about emotional intelligence. But there's always this like slant towards the efficiencies of a business model. And today's guests are really looking at it. From my perspective, they look at it a little differently, and they sincerely place emphasis on the individual as a person. And I find it so fantastic, especially in today's competitive world for talent. I mean, maybe now it's a great time for people to start being a little bit more sincerely interested in the very well-being of their coworkers.
And our guests have a new book, Above the Line, and it's about living and leading with heart. So, I know you watched it or listened to it after, I think, the replay. But, I had a great talk with Jason Averbrook on Monday on live stream. And for those that don't know Jason, Jason's company, he's the co-founder of LeapGen now. Jason is considered one of the top two experts, thought leaders, where everybody goes, to kind of get answers about human capital management. And a big part of that's HR technology, which, and digital transformation. And why this topic is so relevant, especially after that conversation I had with him Monday, is that technology causes change. I don't know if it causes change, but technology certainly disrupts. And there's certainly a lot of disruption in the world we live in, within HR and outside of HR. But there's a lot of disruption there. But as, both Jason pointed out, and we talked weeks ago about, with Charlene Lee, and we talked about with so many other people, is that the transformation that needs to take place when we talk about change management, adaptability, we're going to be talking about that in a few weeks, is all related to people. I mean, it's all people driven. I mean, we all assume that, we're going to undergo this digital transformation, and so we're buying new technology. But it doesn't work if people don't use it. It doesn't work if people aren't behind it. I mean, it's just the wrong strategy. So today is just, not only is it timely with Valentine's Day coming up, but it's just timely in, with all the other conversations that are going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be exciting. And then especially, there's kind of living to our potential, finding ourselves, being the best we can be. Again, with all the animosity and vitriol and divisiveness coming out of Washington politics these days, and the scares with coronavirus and everything else, today will be refreshing, and it's a really important conversation. So we will get there. Before we get to
it almost sounds like I should remind people that they don't have to watch the news, and they could feel just fine.
Just listen to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization.
Yeah, I mean, That's all I do. That's all I do. I pick my sources. I don't watch the news.
Yeah, it gets pretty frightening out there. So we will be introducing our guests, Mara and Stephen Klemich, very shortly. But before we get there, we don't want to forget to thank our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions, for helping us be here. We've got a lot of things going on. Every week we're here on the show. Our guests are great. They're providing us a lot of resources. I've been doing the live streams. We got to do another one with you, Keith, coming up. Talk about ROI and whatever else you're up to. That may be the only way that you and I get to talk other than the show. Planning a couple webinars, lots of articles and resources. But there's just no way we would talk the whole show about, everything that's available. So if you go to Googlizationnation.com, that's Googlizationnation.com, just sign up. It's free. All we need is a first name and email address. And you'll get notices. We're starting to release those on a weekly basis, more often if needed, when we've got a lot of these events going on, or when, how to access a lot of the archives. Because, again, there's so many great people that are willing to share their knowledge and wisdom and thoughts in such a kind of the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, which is interesting. I was in an interview last night at Muhlenberg College, my alumni. They're starting a new graduate program. And, I brought up VUCA, and it still shocks me that people, haven't heard it before. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Not that it's gotten as popular that I went up and looked for an image, and I use a kind of a website for that. And there's a whole selection of slides out there about VUCA and what it represents. But we live in this volatile time. But speaking of live streams, if you want to listen to the interview I had with Jason Averbook, who again is considered one of the two top thought leaders in the world. I had a great question for him the other day. When you're at the top, and the other one, by the way, at the top is Josh Burson. So it's pretty esteemed company. It's pretty. Yeah. You're pretty. I asked Jason where he goes to get information. We go to him. We go to Josh. There's so many other good leaders out there. Where does he go? And so you're going to have to listen to the conversation.
And I'll tell you what, he's, you mentioned something, and I know we want to bring the guest on here, but Jason and I spent some time together not that long ago, and he's spot on with he really does focus. They're massively successful. They work with the best of the world companies. Absolutely. And he focuses on people. He focuses before he gets to any of the technologies he's dealing with the people component, which is, I think it's about time for that to be successusul.
It has to be, because a lot of the other efforts that are being tried aren't working. So we can get Stephen and Mara on. Just want to is following up with or closing the conversation about Jason. Well, it's not closed; it'll just continue. But if you go to the easiest place, the replay is actually on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. But it's pretty funky on LinkedIn, although that's the primary spot we recorded it on, to try to find it. So if you go to youtube.com/Ira Wolf, that's my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ira Wolf. Just click on the live stream playlist that's near the top of the page, and actually the very first one that should show up will be the interview the other day. So you can subscribe to the channel, and there's, I think, 15 other live streams I've done in the last 3 months or so. So there's a lot of good content up there. Yeah, and again, if you go to GoogleizationNation.com, you'll get some emails on future ones. Got 2 next week, not formalized yet, but again, you'll get the notices. And don't forget my new book, Recruiting in the Age of Googlization, edition 2.0. You can buy it, $19.95 on Amazon, or you can get it for free. You can go to join.googlizationnation.com. Just put a join.googlizationnation.com, or you can text to RAG, which is Recruiting in the Age of Googlization, RAG, the number 4, free. It's RAG 4 free to 64600, 64600. Announce that later. And you got a free paperback copy, 7 to 10 business days, and you'll immediately be able to get a digital download for that. So, hopefully you'll take advantage of that. Eventually, you're going to have to pay full freight for it. One final reminder, then we're going to get to our guests. We're going to learn how to live above the line. We are live today. If you've got questions, you can call 561-623-9429, 561-623-9429, or chat with us. You can go up to w4cy.com, listen to the show. There's a chat button on the side, or just send a message to Keith or me on LinkedIn, and we'll be glad to share it. Love to hear from everybody. And now it's time to bring on our guests. Mentioned their names before, Mara and Stephen Klemich. They are calling in from the UK. They are authors of a fascinating new book. I haven't completed it, but I've got a lot of it underlined. It's called Above the Line, Living and Leading with Heart. As an avid student of human behavior, they got me hooked as soon as I saw the title, and especially when I saw they had an assessment. So I'm sort of an assessment geek out there. What's out there? How do we make it better? What's new, and how can we help people? I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not about the assessments. It's how can the assessments get the message out? And I completed it this morning. They gave me the opportunity to do that, and we're going to share with everybody a code and a link that everyone could go to and actually take it for free. Compliments to them, so we appreciate that. Stephen has been a long-time leadership consultant, worked with a lot of teams and executives from all over the world. Pretty impressive list. And Mara is a consulting psychologist, clinical neuropsychologist, and has worked as a forensic neuropsychologist as well. So welcome to the show, Mara and Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ira and Keith. It's very nice to be on your show. I hope we can add value to your listeners and their lives.
Appreciate. I'm sure there's no question, just from a little bit of background, a little bit of kind of things we went into. Absolutely, for sure. Let's start with a couple things. You were kind enough to share the book and a little bit of background, but our listeners, you can articulate a lot better. But I think it's interesting. You've obviously been in the workforce for a little bit.
Are you insinuating we're old?
I'm probably older than you.
You're right.
I couldn't say that the way I was said.
A bit of grey hair.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of
us.
They always think I'm the geek, but I'm definitely the chronological geezer. So Above the Line talks about leadership, psychology, and neuroscience. And I've been around long enough, and Keith, you probably came across this too. So sure. It's pretty recent. Where talking about neuroscience, psychology, in a conversation about leadership, executives would just immediately hit the snooze button. It's like we need a management course. We need better leaders. And then you introduce psychology, and you go, oh, not that. Not another assessment, not that. I mean, we don't need to know that. People just need to lead. So you two came from different backgrounds, and you've put them together.
Sure.
Kind of walk us through that journey of how you got to this place.
Well, it is an interesting journey. So first of all, a couple of Aussies living in London. So excuse our Aussie accent. I hope you can all understand. What have we done to the Queen's language? Anyway, Mara, of course, has come from one side of the street, incredibly academic, and Mara can explain that. I came from the other side of the street with a very broken and dysfunctional background. And when I was 19, I read a book that changed my life. And then I went on a journey of personal development and leadership development. And when we met, these sort of two worlds collided of what is it that drives effective people? And as much as we look at personalities, but different personalities become effective. And what we saw was it was their character strength that was the difference. It was their strength of character and how they could be calm command under pressure, think of people, and like, as you've been saying in the introduction, a highly technological world, but it's all driven by people. So how do we, in a high-tech world, be high touch and think of people? And we recognized this a long time ago. And we boiled it down to the fact that when you're leading from the heart, that's when you make a big impact. And we've had these sayings for decades. That person spoke from the heart. That person leads with the heart. They haven't got their heart in it, or they have got their heart in it. That's broken-hearted. And there's so many terms that we've had for decades mentioning the word heart, but have we ever recognized what we're actually talking about? And that's where we boiled it down to our strength of character. When our character is weak, we behave ineffectively, which is below the line. And when our character is strong, we manifest behaviors that are above the line, and we call that living and leading with heart above the line, hence the title of the book.
So you've both done, I mean, through collectively, you've done a lot of research. You studied and coached and worked with a lot of people over time. And then you, Mara, you bring a really interesting approach to it from, working, I believe, was it with, did you work within prisons? Is that?
So I was expert witness in murder trials in Australia for over 18 years, right. Which I always joke set me up really well to go and work in the corporate world.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, we won't go there. We'll stay out of politics for a moment. Yeah,
not how we met, by the way.
So, well, I guess the other one was you worked a lot on clinical neuropsychology too. So a lot of traumatic brain injuries and other eating disorders and pain management. So kind of a very, very interesting background that you bring that clinical perspective. But again, a lot of good human behavior. We got a tremendous potential as human beings. But there's a lot of dysfunction associated with that. And you've already mentioned a little bit of the significance of above the line, but there's four, you call them universal principles or primary principles that you've identified that shapes our character, that drives our behavior. So can you define each of those for us? And then, a second question that is, how did you end up with those four? Because again, I'm sure there were, I've been around for a while, and there's a long list of things that we're told. If we could do everything that everybody told us, I mean, I can't even remember the list. And you've narrowed it down to four. So I'm curious as to how you came up with those four. But talk about what the four are and what their importance is.
All right. Well, first of all, you've got these two worlds that collided, as we said. Mara's world coming from clinical neuropsychology, and I came from theology, and looking not just from a theological perspective, but looking at what drives behavior. And this is where we saw that the principles that drive our below-the-line behavior, which is very normal. It's not good and bad. It's just that below the line behavior is how most of the world operates. And it all stems from fear, self-limiting fear. And, we've seen this all over the place, and, that's nothing really new. But this self-limiting fear drives certain behaviors like avoidance and approval seeking and dependent. And I self-protect because of self-limiting fear. Now, how we mask fear is often through self-promoting, and we call that ego-driven pride. There's positive pride, but this is ineffective pride, ego-driven. Now, ego means evicting good out. So when in my heart, if I'm evicting all of the good out and I've got fear in there, I'm going to start to manifest behavior like controlling and striving to be perfect, and negative competitive, because it's all about me, me, me. So below the line behavior, which is very normal, is driven by self-limiting fear and ego-driven pride, because it's all about me. I'm trying to self-protect or self-promote. And if we go out into the world today and measure this, which we've done over 100,000 people, it's very normal to have below-the-line behavior. And it does drive results.
Yeah, and I suppose really those below-the-line behaviours are coping strategies. That's what they are. They're coping strategies to keep ourselves safe.
Yep.
And that coping is coming from a fear, which is really an insecurity. And it's very normal, because all of us have insecurities, and we're all trying to cope in a highly aggressive world, highly technologically driven world. So if that's normal, what is counterculture? What's highly effective? Even though below the line might get commercial results, how do we get commercial results and behave above the line? And the two principles that we researched are what we call courageous humility. So being courageous and humble at the same time. So I want to drive results. I want to be achievement driven and authentic. And how do I do that? By being courageously humble. And then the second value is what we call growth-driven love, the new 4-letter word for the corporate world. And that is love and respect and honor and those values that are buried, deep in our heart. And out of that, we ended up with 4 quadrants, just to help people understand that we've now got 4 quadrants. And in each one of those quadrants, there are 4 behaviors. So the behaviors that manifest out of courageous humility are authentic and someone who wants to transform, highly reliable and driven to achieve results. But they do it in a courageous, humble way. The growth-driven love behaviors we researched are what we call relating to people, encouraging others, developing others and giving them feedback, but doing that through compassion. So you've got 4 quadrants, 4 principles that drive behavior, and then we measured behaviors after behaviors. This took 18 years of research.
I thought it would take us 5. We're obviously slow learners, so
and we're Aussies. We're slow.
Yeah, we take a while.
Who's in charge of this thing anyway, right?
So there's a theme that's going across quite a few of our interviews, and again we're on this learning journey, and it's just amazing, how much Keith. I know you and I we learn a tremendous amount each week. That's why I love doing these interviews with so many people, and hopefully, and that's what I love sharing it. We're not selfish. we're trying to spread the love, out there and help everybody else grow. But the theme that seems to be pretty universal, we've talked with Diane Hamilton, with the Curiosity Code. And she has an acronym for you, Mara and Stephen. It's called the Curiosity Code Index. She's done a lot of work on curiosity and perspective. And she's got a new assessment coming out actually on perspective. But she came up with an acronym. What holds people back? Why aren't people more curious? Why are they fearful of learning or changing, of moving beyond the status quo? And her acronym is FATE. And the F stands for fear. It's fear. So the fear is not only hindering us personally. You can say, well, that's my personal thing, and I'm happy and I'm doing the best I can, and people rationalize that. But in dealing with all the change, whether it's driven by technology or for whatever reason, just the world around us is moving faster, is that not having a good understanding, not living above the line, is really going to harm people even in keeping up with change and learning. And again, everybody needs to be on a learning and upskilling path, no matter what age or what generation you're from or what industry you're in. So this has a broad implication, a very broad implication, beyond that. We're coming up pretty quickly here on we're going to have a break, but when we come back, I want to be able to kind of dig a little bit deeper. I've got a couple questions. And one of them is going to be is if you see a difference in different generations, because when it comes to authenticity, you brought up a couple words, and some of them become buzzwords. But when you come up with something like authenticity, that's really super important. Yeah. Authenticity and transparency for millennials and Gen Z. And yet, as a baby boomer, as an older baby boomer, we're told to hide our emotions, keep that in, don't show that. So I'll be curious what you found in your research and how we can deal with it. Not only what you found, but how we can deal with it. You are listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. I'm your host, Ira Wolf. I'm here with Keith Campagna, and our special guest today. We're talking about how to live and lead with heart. Very appropriate for this week of Valentine's Day. We're going to be taking a short break. You're going to hear from our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. So stay right where you are. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Imagine how your company would grow if your candidate experience earned a 99% approval rating. Well, to get to 99%, you need the 3 best letters in recruitment technology, XOR. Zor's text bots, chat bots, and audio bots increased IKEA's candidate conversion rate 455%. Zor decreases candidate drop-off rates, improves your candidate experience, and collects analytics for future strategies. To learn more, check out Zor.ai. That's XOR.ai.
Hi everyone, this is Ira Wolf, author of Recruiting in the Age of Googleization. I'm excited to announce that my online course, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, is open for business. This course is the culmination of a 2-year-long project and releases recruiting tips I've learned after hundreds of hours of research, speaking with thousands of conference attendees, and interviews with dozens of experts. It's all available to you in Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. To receive more information or get started, visit our website at www.successperformancesolutions.com and click on the tab Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. Hey, welcome back to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization show. We are having a fantastic conversation with our guests, Mara and Stephen Klemich, authors of Above the Line. We're talking about how to live and lead with heart. And when we left off, we were talking about fear, how it holds us back professionally and personally. I was mentioning how it disrupts our curiosity. But then we led into authenticity, which is another ingredient in this. And during the break, we started a conversation about how does this relate to corporate. So Keith asked a great question, which we'll bring out again. But I had a question. If this is being, what you're seeing, Mara and Stephen, what are you seeing within the generations? Because, one of the things that baby boomers and even Gen X hated not hated, but dislike about the behavior of millennials and Gen Z is that they want more transparency. They sort of lay it out on the line. Here's who I am. If you don't like me, you need to get to know me. And again, some of it's, whether that comes out as inappropriate behavior or whether it's just our perspective of, well, I would never do that, so they shouldn't either. So what are you seeing in the generations? Are you seeing any correlations with the results you get?
Absolutely. Yes, we are, for sure.
Yeah, we are. I'll give an example. And this is in Australia. I was working with some of the large accounting firms and law firms. And
they got a huge issue with that.
They do, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, professional firms, again, between the partners and the whole structure, the cultural structure of that is
exactly. And basically what effectively, if I can just make a general statement, what was happening or what is happening is that the younger generations look at the current partners and say, if that's what success looks like here, there's no way I'm going to do it. And the partners are looking down at the millennials and everyone else saying, well, hang on a minute, we're giving you more money. We'll give you the secondment to London. We'll give you all of these things. And yet some of those people, young people, are going, well, actually, that's not what I want to look like. That's not the way I want to live my life. So I'm just going to leave. And you're starting to get this sort of deficit of talent. And I think for me, that's where it really showed up in the work that I was doing, that the younger generations, they want authenticity and transparency, and not necessarily in working in the same way, sort of sequential way, if you like, that we might have in the years gone by. So they want that flexibility as well. They also, I think it's mainly the emotional side of it, isn't it? In terms of how someone is as a person is also important in terms of how they are as a leader. And they've made that connection. Whereas I think for us baby boomers, we could compartmentalize who we were in our personal life and then change who we were in our business life and keep the two quite separate.
Yeah,
right.
It's interesting you say that, because hearing you talk about how the younger generations are looking for more of what I consider life-work integration, right? They want to be able to have a career, but not forfeit their lives and their future and their mental well-being because of it. But weren't these the same people that said that they wanted beanbags and free lunches, and now there's all this statistics out there that says that doesn't really move the needle in terms of employee engagement. I gotta believe, and maybe this sounds a little bit like I'm setting you up here, but what kind of results are you getting out there that that corporations should be paying attention to?
Yeah, and I think this is when you've got leaders that are leading with heart above the line, what you are creating is engagement, because young people, they want to come and get their hearts engaged and be engaged in the brand and the passion and have a voice. They want their minds engaged and not just have, because I just wind the clock back in history. In the Industrial Revolution, we had a very strong hierarchy. And at the top of the hierarchy, you had people who had the skills, the education, the talent. And on the bottom part of the hierarchy, we had the uneducated. And that model worked during the Industrial Revolution. Then we've got the knowledge and technological revolution. And we believe in what's happening with our clients that are using Heartstyles and they're living and leading with heart. They're creating the heart revolution. Because what people are being able to do is they're finding purpose by coming to work, by being listened to, by having a voice, by having a leader say that, this is where we're going and how we're going there. But has anybody else got ideas? And a leader is now coming into a meeting with 2 ears and 1 mouth instead of 2 mouths and 1 ear.
Yep.
And this is where young people are coming along and they're seeing their bosses or their leaders as heart-led leaders, and that is creating incredible engagement. And therefore, these people, the beanbags and the pool tables and all of those are a nice added extra. But what we have seen is people will work incredibly hard, put in great hours to get the job done, if there's the work-life balance and the purpose and the engagement with their leaders. If they're treated like just people,
if there's a fear model, if there's a fear model in the culture,
and it just creates disengagement.
Right. And just so you know, the two of you are our guests for the first time, but we talk a lot about HR and HR technology. I think it's important to share with the audience that this is not coming from the human resources side of the world. This is science. This is where technology has been evolving to where, there's measurements in terms of the magnetic energy that comes from the heart region, right?
Yes.
And there's this notion that there's a real true science to the way people behave better, think better, and ultimately work better, right?
Absolutely. And there is a lot of science now proving, that the heart thinks, that there is all of this energy. And like we call it a vibe or a spirit, but you've only got to walk into a restaurant. You've only got to walk into a place and pick up the energy and the vibe. And if you've got that energy in a work environment or a home, you can feel it and it creates a safe place. We say the number one role of a leader is to create a safe place. If people feel safe, they will express themselves. They will then be authentic. Mm-hmm. But if you've got this behavior that's ego-driven pride, it creates fear. And when people don't feel safe, they'll play the political game. And we don't get innovation. It stifles innovation. It creates disengagement, all because of the old hierarchical model. It worked, but what got us here won't get us there. It's a great title of a book, and this is where people or the organizations that have been working with us for years. I mean, one of our clients is 27 years getting this across 1.7 million people across the globe, 24 languages, 131 countries. Why are they doing that? They're doing it because it's creating great people, great leaders, and great engagement.
So there's these four categories. There's these four principles that you have: humility, and I'm looking at my report. So you have humility, love, fear, and pride. Is there? We talked about the millennials and Gen Z. Is there beyond that, is there one in particular? One of these principles that you see as the biggest weakness or strength? What are you seeing out there when, because you've done hundreds of thousands of assessments? Is there a pattern? Is there an area focused, or is it pretty generalized?
Well, we do have a lot of data. The one big thing is that we, as people, feel the need to control our world. We're all in our own way control freaks.
I could talk to you forever.
So I don't want to take this on a different tangent, but it is a question. Maybe it's a short answer. Maybe it's too much of a diversion. Is it that we want to control things, or we just don't like being controlled?
Yes.
So we're in this like HR world. Not the HR world, but just technology. Things are moving so fast. It's not that I have, personally. I love change and I love all of this stuff. So I'm not the question, but is that there is a point where things just seem to be moving so fast. So it's not that I have a feeling that I have to control everything. I just don't like not being in. I don't like losing control. Not that I have to gain it. And I know that's splitting hairs, but. So I don't know if you had an opinion on that or not.
Which means it's still a control freak.
However we define it. All right. And it says that. So.
Well, and I think if not to take away from our guest here, but I think what really tends to happen is that we have external elements and we have internal. And once you're in that fight or flight stress mindset, which is often what comes from trying to maintain control. Control is usually, fear of loss or fear of some result in some future time. And so if you can maintain an open mindset versus a fear-based mindset, which is another way of saying, feel with your heart, think with your heart, use empathy, you wind up from the inside out recognizing that we are, in a true sense, completely out of control. And it's okay because it's been like that the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the thing is with the work that we've done, you've got the two below the line principles. They're both about staying in control, but finding my security. It's really about feeling secure. And that can be done through either a passive means, which is the self-limiting fear types of behaviours, or an aggressive, I'm going to go and rip the jugular out of the world before it does something to me, which is the pride-driven, ego-driven pride. But both of them are about controlling or manipulating the world so that I feel safe. So Ira, I think what you were saying, is it about not wanting to be controlled rather than grabbing control? I think they're kind of along the same lines, really, because it's we want to feel that we are. I don't know how else to put this. I'm going to sound like a psychologist when I say this. We want to feel that we are bigger than the external environment, that we therefore are not helpless. It's not bigger than us and it's overwhelming us. So that's the way I try to think of it, because the control thing is just trying to feel secure in our environment. And we'll do that either through passively manipulating it or aggressively manipulating it, or a bit of both.
So this may play pretty well. It was just out a question from Yvette. She submitted on the chat, and she said, "Is anyone really in control?" And you sort of just answered it. I believe so. Is that we tend to want to control our environment, but I think this is what you said. We need to be in control of ourselves first.
Yeah, and I think that's why the below the line styles, we say they're very normal, because all they are is coping strategies. They're like a coat that we put on, over our core. But the trouble with them is they do work because they do make us feel that we're secure and safe. But the trouble with them is, the tragedy of them is that they actually don't grow our character. They keep us in this sort of suspended animation, if you like, of a coat of safety, but they don't necessarily grow our inner sense of who we are and strengthen that, so that we do feel we don't even think about being in and out of control, because we just are, and it's okay, as Keith was saying.
And that's why we have controlling as a below-the-line style, because it's ineffective. We're so paranoid in trying to control our world and self-promote. When if we let go of the control and say, right, I am authentic to myself, I'm being my best self, I'm managing what I can within my sphere of influence, and then that allows me to let go of all the tension that sits around fear and sits around having to control. What if this happens? What if that happens? And the acronym to fear, false expectations appearing real. Mm-hmm. And as we have those false expectations that appear real to us, we then, it acerbates the need for control. So you end up spiraling. The fear creates the control creates the fear, and people spiral below the line. And it causes a lot of stress and tension and depression and anxiety. Look at the word anxiety. The middle letter is I. The middle letter of the word pride is I. So the whole world gets revolved around me, I, and that pushes us below the line.
Absolutely.
And then
it's,
when we start to think,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just when we start to think we instead of me, we start to shift ourselves above the line in our heart and our mind and our behavior. And that's when people who are working with us in a team or our family or our relationships, when we're thinking we create courageous humility, growth-driven love, and it creates a different vibe and different behavior, and it creates engagement.
Yeah. And, during my life work integration presentations, I draw, it's very entertaining to me how similar the statistics are, because when we look at the output of that scenario, productivity is at all-time lows. In one source will say 65% of the workforce is mentally stressed and they don't feel safe enough to be their pure potential. And then another source will say that 35% of the workforce is engaged. So, it's almost, to me, it's like if A, then B, and it sounds like you've already figured that part out.
Well, what's been happening, because this is a personal development tool, so it's not a personality profile. And what's happening as the organizations we work with are giving this to their people, from the CEO to the front line, they're engaging them in a life skill. And when they get engaged in life, they then get engaged in the brand. And when they get engaged in the brand, they then get engaged with the customer. Now, so much of the last couple of decades has been, smile at the customer and get engaged with the brand, but people's lives are not being developed. And the organization is not adding to my life. And this is what people are looking for. So as Heartstyles gets in, and a really good example is, one of our clients is working in South Africa. And when you get to South Africa, you've got, multicultural tensions happening. And the CEO of this franchise organization, and they won't mind me mentioning, but this is KFC, who are a huge client of ours across the globe, KFC South Africa. And when you've got people coming from multicultural environments and they've got, in some cases, very little education working at the front line of a KFC, and they give them Heartstyles, they're educating them in life skills, in how to become a better person, how to become your best self. And what that has done is engaged these people. It's broken down racial tensions, and it's created incredible engagement. And the CEO, who's a woman of this organization, just has said it's changing their nation in their little way through giving people a job at KFC. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah. And that's a great, well, and fortunately, I mean, this has been awesome. I mean, we're so humbled and grateful to have such great, guests and learning, but we're almost out of time. We got about 5 minutes left in the show. So we want to start wrapping stuff up. And so you mentioned Heartstyles. I want to let everybody know that thanks to Mara and Stephen, we're going to be able to offer that to our listeners. So you'll be able to take a free assessment. You can go to Heartstyles, that's heartstyles.com/promotion. So it's heartstyles.com/promotion. And there's a code. So you're going to click on it, and then you can enter an access code, which is BESTME 2020. That's BESTME 2020. And you'll be able to complete the assessment. And it's fast. It absolutely is fascinating. And I've got a whole other hour or two of questions. So we need to continue this as we always do. I mean, we are just so grateful that we've had so many great guests, and each one sort of opens up another big door to helping people. And so we'll definitely be in touch. But how can, you've got your book out there, Above the Line. I know it's on Amazon and everywhere else up to your website. How else can people get a hold of both of you?
Well, through the website, heartstyles.com. And obviously, as you just said, the book is available. It's released in the US now. It gets released around the world during February and March. The UK is in a couple of weeks, and then Australia and New Zealand, and off we go.
And we've got Facebook, which is Stephen and Mara Klemich.
Oh, yes, all of that. Facebook and LinkedIn and
all the good things.
Instagram.
Yeah. If you can send me the list of all your places people connect with you, we write an article after this, and we post it up on the podcast, and we'll include all that. So nobody has to search for it, but as well with the assessment. So again, you can go up to heartstyles.com/promotion, BESTME 2020. We'll put that in our podcast and our link and our blog. And again, very, very grateful, Mara and Stephen.
Yes,
love to continue this conversation afterwards. You. So again, best of luck. Tremendous. We got to get you back on. We got so many other rabbit holes to go down here.
Well, thank you, by the way. Thank you for doing the work. Your efforts probably seemed very trailblazing at the time, but now I think you should be at a great place, I hope. So thank you.
Thank you for that compliment, because when we first started our research, we were laughed out of boardrooms.
As I said,
imagine,
right?
Imagine talking about the L word, the four-letter word. But
we just had to wait our time. We knew that society has been moving forward, and we just had to wait our time. And hopefully the reason we wrote the book is to try to get this message out to as many people who might never have that opportunity to be able to learn and grow. We hope that's
be part of that. Yeah, we're hopefully we've introduced to it a lot more, and we will continue to do so. So again, I want to thank Mara and Stephen Klemich, Above the Line, Living and Leading with Heart. Make sure you pick up the book, Amazon or wherever else you can get that. Go up to their website, heartstyles.com. Go to heartstyles.com/promotion.
We lost Ira there, but I'm going to say thanks, everyone, for listening. More to come. Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. Check us out, LinkedIn, Spotify, iTunes, and the rest of the world. Thanks.